Welcome to the first and final word with Nelson Jordan. I'm Chris Nelson. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube page, follow us on all of our social media pages, and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. We are going to be providing our MLB regular season takeaways with the conclusion of the regular season and the postseason getting ready to start. So, Nelson, what were your MLB regular season major takeaways?
Yeah, I believe the MLB this year had a lot. Heck, I can't wait for MLB postseason. Shoot,
Absolutely.
we already have a classic series lining up between two clubs that absolutely hate each other, and it's about to be a fun draw in the first round.
Biggest
between the
rivalry in
Yankees
baseball in the wild card.
Yeah, Yankees and Red Sox. That is about to be a brutal series between the both. I expect this to go down to the final game, but either way, that's getting way too ahead.
Do you and I agree, really quick? We don't want to see the best rivalry in baseball in a 3-game wild card series. That's a little bit disappointing. You know, we'd rather see that down the line where they can have a longer series and both play at home. Just a little bit.
True that. I mean, yeah, we do want an AL, CS between what was the Red Sox and the Yankees of a long time ago. But with the teams that made it, deservedly so, I think this is going to be an
unquestionably.
excellent postseason. Yeah.
Okay.
So to get forward, give it up to the Seattle Mariners. What an incredible run that you guys had this year. For the first time in 24 years and 5 days exactly on the dot, that was the first time that this team has won a division title, the AL West, in a long, long time. And I can honestly tell that Seattle Mariners crowd was in full joy.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
in the same time that you guys clinched was the same night that Cal Raleigh set the record for 60 home runs in a season for a switch hitter record, also a catcher. And
First
also
catcher
a
to
Seattle
ever hit 60
Mariners
homers.
record.
Yeah.
Unbelievable to
Griffey
Cal
Jr.
Raleigh.
Yeah, how incredible is that? And you're talking about a franchise that had Ken Griffey Jr.'s teammate was Alex Rodriguez. I mean, they've had some guys, and he broke their records. Neither of them ever hit 60 home runs, period, I don't believe, but with the Mariners. And then you're talking about the fact that he's the first catcher to ever hit 60 home runs in a season. I mean, it's amazing. And you also referenced, to piggyback off what you're saying, 24 years since they last won the division title. Don't forget, that 2001 team still holds the MLB record for most regular season wins of all time. They had a rookie who was also the American League MVP in Ichiro Suzuki, and maybe Cal Raleigh, a little bit shades of that. Very different player. Obviously, Suzuki got a lot of hits, got on base.
Very different.
Cal Raleigh's a pure power hitter. But, I mean, hey, man, when they made the playoffs 4 years ago and ended that crazy long drought, we've talked about the long drought Minnesota had. They had one as well. They ended it. Those fans were so awesome and have been these past few years, continuing to be. And so, great fans out in Seattle. Cannot wait to see them in the divisional series. But go ahead, Nelson.
I'll go as far to say as Seattle is going to be a threat coming out of AL. They have a very underrated bullpen. The way they were the last 20 games or so, I think they had an ERA of less than 2.4 or something like that. Unbelievable. I mean, listen, the Mariners are a threat. They are a real deal this year. But I do want to piggyback on...
Really quick before you go forward, if I'm not mistaken, they'll have to play the winner of that American League Central matchup, right? The Guardians are hosting the Tigers.
Yeah.
That could be tough regardless of who they get. Both of those teams, the Guardians and Tigers, are really good, and you want to talk about pitching. I mean, we'll see that. So the Mariners, that could be tricky in the divisional series. So we'll talk more about that, but I just wanted to throw it out there. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. But no, I do want to give a little bit of this is kind of a little call-out shout-out.
Hell yeah.
I do not get what the guy who caught the ball, the 60th home run by Cal Raleigh did. I get it. You're a great guy and all, but you're giving that to the little kid. Dude, why didn't you keep the ball? You could have gotten a litany of items from the Mariners, maybe even a picture, a meet and greet, season tickets. Boy, oh boy, I mean, that was such a great moment. Good guy moment. I do want to shout him out for that, but at the same token, if that was me, I would have kept that ball and I would have made some loot off of that. That's just me personally.
What if that kid grows up to be a multi-billionaire And he never forgets that moment. That moment is the most special moment of his life, and then he decides to give back to this guy. He can get a heck of a lot more out of that, so I'm just throwing out a random scenario. But no, that was the right thing to do, man.
The Major League Baseball always somehow comes out with these beautiful moments, and that was just another beautiful moment in itself.
Yeah.
Even though Cal Raleigh did hit that beautiful 60th home run, that was a beautiful moment between the fans. The next recap little moment of the season, I thought, what is going on with the Baltimore Orioles? I grew up watching the Baltimore Orioles. I grew up watching these guys. They had a dedicated history. With Cal Ripken, before I started watching them, they had some wonderful teams. I thought, well, when I say wonderful teams, they were not the cream of the crop, but at least they were competing.
They were really
They
young,
had
very
great
young,
players.
in the 90s.
Adam Jones. They had Miguel Tejada. They had
Manny
so
Machado.
many. I'm just naming a few players. They had so many. I mean, I could go back to the 2000. Yeah, I could go back to the 2013 team that had
an
an
incredible guys from that team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
But the past couple of years, they've been great. Past few years, they've been great.
This was a story franchise, and then the last 2 years was a complete fall off of a cliff. In 2023, the best record in MLB, the most talent on that roster, young talent, I might add.
That's what I'm trying to
thank you.
In
Young
2024,
talent,
who's still young.
In 2024, you
Not
take
quite
a
as
step
good, but still
back.
good. A little bit.
You still have some talent on that team.
Still good team.
Yes,
Still
there
good
were some injuries that kind of did play out as to
Yeah.
why you did finish second in the AL East.
Well,
and
and
then
the
this
Yankees
year,
were so good.
what happened?
And
I
we
mean,
talked about them at the trade deadline. They were sellers. It's just stunning.
I don't get it. I love the Baltimore Orioles. I get it. I'm a homer with the Nats too. But this once proud
there were no
franchise,
Nationals when we grew
the
up.
biggest beef that I have with the Orioles, Mike Elias, you have to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I doing wrong with this franchise? Because you won't spend a simple dime on getting any big name talent. You had the window for the last 2 years prior to this year. You didn't want to sign any of your players either because some of them did leave. And now this is what you have. And you have it in the way of your record and attendance. This was the lowest attendance by record of the Baltimore Orioles franchise history by 400,000 in seats.
Well, Nelson, you're kind
Total.
of making your own point. Where is he going to get the money to spend? Small market team. If nobody's showing up to the games, how is he supposed to get the money?
I don't know. I don't know if Baltimore's a small market team. I think Baltimore. They're not LA. They're not New York. I get it, but they're not. I don't think they're small. I think they're like kind of in between. Listen, Baltimore's kind of in between because Baltimore does back up their teams. But again, that's just my big beef. Baltimore, get it together. You guys got to have a better season next year. Because
your thoughts, what do you expect them to do going forward now? Because you mentioned it, they still have young talent, so you're not exactly going to go into a rebuild. You have young talent. You need to compete now, or you're not going to compete at all. So what do you do?
But how can you?
And the division is so tough. The division is so tough.
To be very frank with you, I don't expect them to. What I expect Mike Elias to do, he's going to hold on to these young players, utilize them either as a trade asset or utilize them either as a potential rebuild next year. Because if I'm the players like an Ali Rushman, if I'm, these other young talent stars that you have on the team, it's like at this point, what are you showing to me based off the last 3 years that we've fallen off a cliff to say we are going to be competing for the next year, 3 years, and or 5 years? You haven't shown anything. Yet this year, as we stated in the trade deadline, it's like you guys were giving away players left and right. And on top of that, it's like now you're starting to dip a little bit into your what's been a signature Baltimore Orioles every single year. You guys had a great farm system. And now you're dipping into that. Like Mike Elias, I don't know what you're thinking. It's not clear. You're leaving Orioles fans with a lot to be desired. And listen, I can probably vouch for this for all the Orioles fans for the last couple of years. You're leaving us 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Next team I want to get to.
Can I kind of force you to pivot here? Can I force you to pivot and kind of go in a different direction?
Go ahead.
Let's just go ahead and transition and talk about the American League East as a whole. Why not? We're talking about the Orioles. Let's do it because we talked about it a little bit with the Yankees and the Red Sox. Right? Fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we got to talk about how it wasn't just the Orioles that fell off. The Tampa Bay Rays weren't good last year, but they've been going downhill. We know all the circumstances, all the players they lost, and the things going on off the field with them. But they're playing in the Yankees spring training ballpark at George Steinbrenner Field in a small stadium, and it went poorly, so they fell off. But the Blue Jays, the Yankees won 94 games again and didn't win the division. This is a team that won the American League pennant last year in addition to the AL East pennant. And they tied with the Blue Jays. How much of an improvement did Toronto make? Toronto's the top seed in the American League ahead of Seattle and the Yankees. The Yankees have to play in the wild card. And how big of a jump did the Red Sox make to get into the playoffs? I mean, I think there's some thoughts to be had in the American League East.
You'll touch on those a little later, but I'll give you my thoughts. I think this is a credit to, at least with the AL. You have, first of all, the offensive lineup is superior than to that of Baltimore's and that of Tampa Bay. But you also have a superior payroll as far as paying their players. I mean, New York and LA to stand out, but New York in the division. Then you have the Blue Jays this year who have both. They have paid their players, but they also have an excellent farm system. They're one of those teams that knows how to balance that, and they're always in competition. It seems like every single year. And it feels like more and more teams should take a copy out of the Blue Jays and how they're able to manage the organization from top to bottom.
We don't want to follow Canada. We don't want to follow Canada.
No. But in all sincerity,
we love Canada.
I get it. And then the Red Sox always have a farm system. So even though they did trade one of their big name players at the deadline, look, I mean, they got depth behind them always. The Red Sox always seem to have depth. They seem to find it out of the farm system, or they're able to make some litany of signings and stuff like that to keep them competitive every single year. And they're willing to pay, not like New York, but they're willing to pay enough for certain talent. So, that's the difference between them and that of the other two teams, which you referenced, the Tampa Bay Rays, and also I referenced the Baltimore Orioles. Mm-hmm. But I do want to switch to the AL West, and that is the Houston Astros. This has to be said now. What a great run by the Houston Astros. 16 years in a row to be able to make the playoffs and win countless titles as well. When I say countless, I mean more than enough. But at the same token, we talked about it at the trade deadline. The biggest lacking... I was
going to bring that up.
We talked about them at the trade deadline, and the one lacking piece that they did not have within their lineup was getting enough batting. And we thought that maybe bringing in an Altuve... that would make a world of a difference potentially, right? And the return of some of their other players as well that were coming off of injury. That just didn't pan out. They were still bottom in the league as far as batting. It was too
little, too late. It's a 162 game season. The injuries throughout had caught up to them. They didn't have the roster in most games to get it done. But one more point of credit to them is it's yet another winning season for them. So they still had another winning season. Yeah. But I mentioned at the trade deadline that they had been trending down. This is the third straight year. Ever since they won that World Series and had that all-time great team. I know they won a couple World Series, but the most recent one, they've gotten worse each year. And I talked about it last year. Was this year going to be a bounce-back season, or were they going to keep trending downwards? They're trending downwards, and that's a scary thought for Houston fans for next year, especially since we just talked about the city of Houston sports last week and how rough circumstances are for them right now. Texans obviously got a big win yesterday against the Titans, which we've talked about, but go ahead, Nelson.
Yeah, and my last one is Paul Schemes. Shout out to Paul Schemes. Another crazy season, unearthed. Listen, this might be... I mean, he's young. He's talented, 2 years so far. Yeah. I mean, he said it himself in a press conference, which I give to be very funny. He said that this was not my best season so far, even though his numbers were practically identical. I mean, sub 200 ERA, and I mean, what was it also? I think he had, what was it, the most with 216 strikeouts and a walkout percentage of strikeouts to walk percentage of 23.7%. Those numbers are unheard of. And then he recorded 12 scoreless innings, the most by a pitcher in Pirates history.
Wow.
God.
And don't forget how great he was at LSU. If we want to talk about his seasons, let's throw in those college seasons. He was special at LSU.
I feel like Paul Schemes is... He's in one of those. Every now and then we see it in an MLB franchise, right? Especially the smaller markets, right?
Yeah.
That we kind of reference to, whether it be the Rays, whether it be the Kansas City Royals, any of these small markets. But then you have this all-star talent. It's like you're holding them hostage. Let them go. Yeah. Let them get out of the nest and go to a bigger team.
You know what though? I love Pittsburgh. I do. I love Pittsburgh. I love the fans, the black and gold. They're awesome. I have all the respect in the world for them and that city. That's an awesome city. It really is.
It is. And it's a beautiful ballpark, by the way. If no one's ever been there, that's a beautiful ballpark.
I have been. I made a point of going to that ballpark because it's so beautiful and it exceeds the hype, which is saying something. That ballpark it's awesome. It really is. But we have to mention with Paul Skeens, since you brought him up, the one thing he's not doing so well is he's actually the second most famous person in his own relationship. His girlfriend is quite a bit more famous than him. She has quite a bit of attention on her on social media. You don't what? What do you mean? Oh, really?
I did not know that. I'm not aware.
You don't know? Okay, you need to get on the internet, bro. I guess now
I'm on social media. Clearly, I don't know.
I'm the TMZ guy out of the two of us. Nobody go on social media, Kim, and find me, and I know who she is. Come on, she's on a bunch of commercials and stuff. Yeah, she was a gymnast at LSU. She's ridiculously famous. She has a huge following. Yeah, you'll recognize her this year. So I do want to start and finish in the American League because you touched on it extensively. Let's go to the American League Central, which we didn't reference, and what happened in that division, because we expected coming into the season the Guardians, who won the division last year and again this year now, and have dominated that division for the most part for the past few years or so. For several years, really. And the Tigers to be very good teams, and they both were. But the Tigers, in early to mid-July, had a 15.5-game lead in the division and blew it. And the Guardians won the division on the final day of the season by a game. That's the biggest collapse in MLB history of a division lead. No team had ever lost a 15.5-game division lead. It's remarkable. Yeah. So credit to the Guardians for coming back because the Tigers are still a really good team. I mean, Scooball is the best pitcher in baseball. He really was last year. Won the Triple Crown and the Cy Young, and he was the best pitcher in baseball again this year. I mean, he's tremendous. I know he struggled in some games down the stretch, but that wild card series is set up. We know the attention's going to go to the Yankees and Red Sox, and justifiably so. But the other wild card series in the American League, with the American League Central teams playing with Tigers at Guardians, that's set up to potentially be something. I could see the Guardians sweeping and how things are going, but put Scooball on that mound. If he can get that one win, things become very interesting. So that's an exciting one. I know we're looking ahead a little bit, but man, Nelson, I got to say really quick up front, I can't wait for these wildcard games because there is nothing better than weekday, non-holiday, daytime sports. That is one of the best things in the world when during a normal business day you can sit there and watch playoff baseball. How special is that? I can't wait to sit down Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoon and be able to watch these games. We'll see if we get Thursday afternoon games.
And the added bonus is that these series, it's not like we're matching up an AL West team with, let's say, an AL East team. These are literally division rivals facing off.
Well, it just happened to play out that way in the American League.
And that's way more enticing, especially for an MLB fan.
Yeah, it's more
because
intense.
The rivalry between the teams. So it's about to get nuts.
Well, and then we're going to get it again in the ALDS in a 5-game series because the Blue Jays are going to play the winner of Yankees and Red Sox. So the AL East teams are going to be eliminating each other up until the ALCS, which will only have one remaining at that point. And we'll see if they play an American League Central team or Seattle and how all that goes. But
yeah.
I mean, credit to Seattle, in the season they had and overtaking the Astros, but it's clear the other two divisions were the stronger divisions.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's little question there. Does have to be referenced really quick. The White Sox last year had the worst season of all time. They made a massive jump this year that everybody's going to overlook outside of hardcore baseball fans because of how bad they were again, but they won a heck of a lot more games, which I guess isn't saying much when you're the worst team of all time, but hey, turning in the right direction. Let's go over to the National League. We'll start with the National League East because the Phillies at it again. They got it done. They'll be the 2 seed and get the bye. Great season. I'm a little bit concerned about the Phillies, with the absence of Zach Wheeler. I am. And this Phillies team, of course, they lost in the NLDS last year. Some frustration with them for that. That offense is unbelievable, though. What a season Kyle Schwarber had. I mean, wow. It's overshadowed by Kyle Raleigh in the American League and Aaron Judge and, of course, Shohei Ohtani in the National League, which, I mean, we'll talk about him maybe in a moment here. But that was a heck of a season that Kyle Schwarber put together. Absolutely. The Brewers. Let's go to the Central really quick in the National League. What a season they had. The win streak and just overall and the talent they have. I mean, and Milwaukee is one of those cities that you talked about that the fan base is so awesome and they love the team. And I can't wait to watch some postseason baseball there when we get into the divisional series. That's going to be a ton of fun. So that's a great one. Credit to them. The Cubs, I mean, come on. It's the Cubs, man. You always want to see the Cubs be good, and we're going to get to see them good. They'll play the Padres. We know how good the top of the order is and the batting lineup for the Padres and the pitching pitching they have, what a matchup that is going to be.
Speak on it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It really is. So I'm very excited for that series. And then the Dodgers happen to now find themselves playing in a wild card game because of how good the Brewers and the Phillies were. All of a sudden, the defending World Series champions, who weren't anywhere near as good as they were last year, though still very good. I know they had a lot of injuries, but we know what they have in the top of the lineup in the pitching rotation. The bullpen's a problem, and that's got to be a massive concern for them. And we'll see. And I find it interesting that Clayton Kershaw wasn't put on the wild card roster. You would think he would be, not to start. That makes sense. You have three pitchers better than him at this point in time in the starting rotation for what is only going to be a max 3-game series. But I feel like he's better than some of these guys they have in the bullpen. Last season, don't you want to get all you can out of him, bring him out? By the way, shout out Clayton Kershaw. We'll touch more on it after the season's fully over. But great career, his final season, and he had a really good year. That's awesome. Go ahead. You clearly have some thoughts here.
I think they're just taking a gamble. I think they understand that they want to have him fresh probably for the DS. So I think they're taking a gamble knowing that they're going to win the wild card series, not use him, and then use him for his experience when it really counts the most. So they're taking a gamble.
It's just his last season. Are we really putting him on a pitch count and inning count? It just seems odd to me, but I get it. Unfortunately, you've also got the Padres who we just talked about in that division. I mean, that's a lot of fun. You referenced shout-outs and call-outs. Call out the Mets. That's the second time in 3 years they've had this massive payroll of well over $300 million. All these incredibly talented players. They missed the postseason again. And we talked about the collapse of the Tigers. They had an epic collapse of their own to miss the postseason and not get the wild card. I mean, just embarrassing. And just to wrap up my thoughts here with the National League East, I do want to reference just how bad that Washington Nationals franchise is. Sorry, Nelson, I know they hit some with you, but they're brutally bad.
Don't get me started.
And then we talked about, what happened to some of these other teams like the Baltimore Orioles. What happened to the Atlanta Braves? Now, we know what happened. Yeah. Ronald Acuna Jr. got hurt, but they won a World Series after he got hurt last time, so we hope he's back for the starting season. I want to see a full season from him, man, because when he's played a full season years ago, and even when he hasn't, he's amazing. And that team, with all the talent they have, I hope they can figure it out and get together because they've got some older players, but they had a horrible year, and that division was a bit frustrating. Not to take away from the Phillies, but you talk about how pathetic it was for the Mets, how bad the Nationals were, the fall-off the Braves had, and we don't even need to talk about the Marlins. So, do you have anything?
I think the rest of the MLB, especially the NL, I think they are very happy that the Atlanta Braves are not in the postseason. Because when they are, they're usually a favorite, right?
Well, they didn't even come close, so hopefully they can bounce back, and we'll see. Baseball's a little bit wild with that, but hey, in terms of the Phillies, I mentioned Zach Wheeler. I will say we've seen teams without their ace win a World Series. The Rangers a couple years ago, and I don't know what happened to them the past couple years. They fell off a cliff. They seemed set up for prime success long term, but I guess that's baseball, so that's what we should be excited about for the playoffs, guys, and we will be back to recap these wild card series as well as Thursday Night Football at the end of the week before we get started with the division series. Really quick before we go, do you have any predictions, anything you want to preview for the wild card?
The wild card and the AL for sure. I can't.
Or even the top two seeds in each division, each league, if you have predictions for them going forward. Just anything you have.
Chicago advances. I got the New York Yankees edging out the Red Sox, and I actually have the Detroit Tigers edging out the Cleveland Guardians.
Okay, I'm going to go Guardians, and then I'm going to go with the Padres. I just think they have too much talent. I think they'll get by the Cubs. I will say, former Tar Heel Michael Busch, that's someone to watch, even though if we're going back to his college days, he's not so good in the postseason, but I'm not going to touch on that. But hey, guys, enjoy some baseball. We know Nelson and I will, and we'll be back to talk about it. For Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. This has been the First and Final Word.